Welcome to Douchebagcinema. I'm your host, Some Douche. Since his first appearance in 1940, Robin, the Boy Wonder, has served as the faithful crime-fighting companion to Detective Comics' most famous vigilante, Batman. And although the character has gone through several interpretations over the years, the one thing that has always remained a constant is the fact that he is very much just a young boy. However, that paradigm was broken in 1995 when director Joel Schumacher, in a convention-shattering move, decided to give the role of the Cape Crusader's 10-year-old ward to a nearly 30-year-old man for his magna opus, Batman Forever, thus challenging decades-old dogmas about understanding basic character traits and changing the perception the general public would have of the beloved Sidekick for an entire generation. To understand the importance of making such a drastic change to the character's age is to understand the bravery of the director's casting decision, for when it comes to the Boy Wonder, age is not merely a cosmetic trait, but a character-defining attribute that establishes the nature of his relationship with other characters in the Batman universe.
How'd I do, Dad?
Mediocre.
Yes!
And don't call me Dad.
Take the origin story for Batman's first Robin as an example. Traditionally, whether it's in the comics or in the various animated series, Dick Grayson's parents are killed when their circus performance is sabotaged by a mob boss, causing them to fall to their deaths in front of their 10-year-old son. In a study titled Children Who Witnessed Parental Murder, published by the Journal of the American Academy of Child Psychiatry, it is concluded that the children who appear to cope with such a horror and disappointment in their lives are those who can still affirm their own value and worth. Alternatively, the child who is exposed to such a situation in the absence of such bulwarks is likely to remain prone to episodes of anxiety and depression long after the traumatic episode. How many parents had to be sacrificed in order for the American Academy of Child Psychiatry to be able to reach this conclusion is a question too dark for us to ponder the answer to. Nevertheless, what is clear is that in traditional versions of the Robin origin story, Dick Grayson's age at the time of the tragedy mirrors Bruce Wayne's age when his own parents were murdered. This catalyzed an immediate connection between the 30-something-year-old Bruce Wayne and the 10-year-old orphan who he sees himself reflected in. However, by making Dick Grayson almost a 30-year-old man himself, the director deliberately chooses to forego decades of comic book lore in order to introduce a much darker psychological component to Batman's sidekick. This is observed in the following scene, where Commissioner Gordon takes the recently orphaned Dick to Wayne Manor with the intention of having Bruce take care of him during his time of need.
Okay, I'm out of here.
Excuse me?
Look, I figured telling that cop I'd stay here for a while saved me a truckload of social service interviews and charity, so, no offense, but no thanks.
What social services is Dick Grayson talking about? He is clearly a fully grown man who can take care of himself. Was he really expecting to be placed in an orphanage, surrounded by children a third of his age? Does this man believe, all of a sudden, he is 10 years old again? Or are Dick's words a sign of a troubled man's broken psyche? The American Psychiatric Press textbook of psychiatry offers some insight into why this emotionally scarred man might think that he is still a child who thinks the government wants to place him in some orphanage. Individuals with psychotic depression experience the symptoms of a major depressive episode along with one or more psychotic symptoms, including delusions and/or hallucinations. Recognizing the signs of a man suffering from an episode of intense psychotic depression, Bruce Wayne decides to play along with Dick's delusion and treat him as if he were a child who needs to be tricked into doing what's best for him.
Someone were to fix him up, they could keep one as a fee. Anyway, have a nice trip.
Knowing a thing or two about how to manipulate mentally fragile grown men, Alfred chimes in with,
"Is the young master leaving? Pity. I'll just toss this away then. Perhaps the dogs are hungry."
Hey, Al, Wait up.
As the film progresses, we see even more signs of Dick's delusion, whether it's him playing with his laundry, forgetting how to drive an automobile, or not knowing how to throw a punch. Even his original idea of what his superhero costume should look like is something only a 10-year-old child would think of. It is in this point of the film where an audience might ask itself, why doesn't Batman hire a sidekick who is more mentally stable than this almost 30-year-old boy wonder? The answer might be found in a psychological hypothesis known as negative state relief, which explains that when a person witnesses an emergency, the negative feeling that this causes in the individual, sadness, guilt, etc., propels him to help in any way he can in order to reduce his own negative feeling. Therefore, Bruce Wayne never adopted the recently orphaned Dick Grayson out of a sense of self-sacrificing altruism, but rather out of a selfish need to make himself feel better, setting the stage for a powerful partnership between a delusional man-child and a self-centered criminal vigilante. However, the problem with adopting a man who believes he is a child is that eventually you'll be stuck with a man who believes he's going through puberty. And nowhere is this more clearly seen than in Schumacher's follow-up and cinematic crowning achievement, Batman and Robin.
It's Batman and Robin, not Robin and Batman, and I'm sick of it.
In her book, The Teenage Brain, Frances E. Jensen explains, in order to truly understand why teenagers act out, talk back, and don't pay attention, we have to look at their brain circuits for answers. The elevated secretion of sex hormones is the biological marker of puberty, the physiological transformation of a child into a sexually mature human being, though not yet a true adult. Take this scene as an example, where Robin, with zero control over the effects his hormones are having in his mind, berates Batman over his decision to exclude him from attempting to apprehend the villainous Mr. Freeze.
Sometimes counting on someone else is the only way you win.
Your head wasn't even on the job. All you could think about was Poison Ivy.
You just can't stand that maybe she wanted me instead of you.
Now, if you are familiar with Gotham City lore, you'd know that Dr. Pamela Isley, aka Poison Ivy, is not one of Batman's most dangerous foes. Armed with poisonous lips and mind-controlling pheromones, the seasoned Cape Crusader is aware that the hormonal effect she has in her victims is only temporary, and there isn't any reason to develop any infatuation for the dangerous bioterrorist. Robin, on the other hand, is much more easily affected by Ivy's pheromone attacks, since he believes he is a child who is barely entering puberty and is therefore more susceptible to fall in love and do absolutely anything any woman tells him to do.
Living in the shadow of the big bad bat. You don't need him.
It is this ongoing delusion, more than any of Ivy's attacks, that causes an irrevocable rift in the relationship between the two mentally unstable costumed vigilantes.
I'm going solo.
However, despite his eagerness to become an independent crime fighter, Dick's teenage mental limitations prevent him from actually leaving Bruce's house. Instead, he opts for bitterly lashing out against his adoptive father figure. In her book, Helping Your Troubled Teen, author Cynthia S. Kaplan explains, an adopted child is apt to act up as a way of coping with intolerable anxiety stemming from insecurity and confusion about identity and belonging. Understanding this, Bruce knows that the only way to correct this rogue behavior is to establish a sense of mature identity in his adoptive son, so that he can mentally transition from thinking of himself as a man-child into thinking of himself as a man-man.
You once said to me that being part of a team means trusting your partner, and sometimes counting on someone else is the only way to win. You remember that? So I'm asking you, friend, partner, brother, will you trust me now?
The ultimate test for Dick's maturity comes in the very next scene, where Robin is lured into Poison Ivy's lair, and he is confronted with an identity-defining decision. Will he act like an adult and take advice on how to properly handle a criminal mastermind, or will he ignore Bruce's warnings and act merely on hormonal impulse?
Rubber lips are immune to your charms.
By using proper protection on his first date, Robin proves that he is finally capable of thinking like an actual grown-up and not like some erratic teen. With this decision, the director signals to the audience that Robin has finally broken free from the delusions that came with his state of psychotic depression from losing his parents, and is finally ready to see himself as an adult and work with other grown-ups towards a common goal, which, in this case, means battling one of the most psychologically complex characters in Gotham City.
Tonight's forecast. A freeze is coming.
As you can imagine, the specific psychopathology that drives Mr. Freeze is a subject complex enough to merit its own video.
Louder! Come on! Sing! 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 Come on! Yes! Come on! Louder!
Nevertheless, it is in this climatic third act where we see the extent of just how dramatic Dick Grayson's character arc truly is. For he is now clear-headed and tactical, where he used to be volatile and temperamental. He now functions as part of a family, where he used to be driven towards solitude. And he excels at working as a team player with the opposite sex, where he used to be a creepy horn dog. In over 70 years of comic book history, we have been witnesses to many reimaginings of Batman's beloved sidekick, and while some interpretations concentrate on the tormented psyche of an abandoned soldier, the eagerness of a young daredevil, or the pride of a blooming heir, none have ever explored the true psychological depths of Robin the Man-Wonder as Joel Schumacher did in his now legendary films. That's it for this episode of Douchebag Cinema. Until next time, keep it douchey. Now, to watch a dissertation on the craft of the athlete thespian, click here for our episode on Michael Jordan's unforgettable work in Space Jam. For more episodes of Douchebag Cinema, follow us on social media and don't forget to subscribe or whatever.